Hello, hockey fans of all ages, shapes, and sizes. I'm at a cool rest stop here. Get the American flag in the background. I wanted to talk about Bordeleau today, and it's a beautiful day in July. And happy belated Jumbo. I got. We're both 44 now, I guess, and rumors he's going to camp, which is unbelievable, man. Good on you, big boy. We'll see what you can do and maybe retire as a Shark. So got this nice colored shirt from my uncle. Cheers, Uncle Darren. We're talking a bit about Boston College. Shout out to Brookie, my cousin. Her boyfriend Charlie's works at the yacht club, and he's going to BC, Boston College, where the Fresh Bay Prince Will Smith is going. I'll touch on the draft too, and then get to the Carlson situation in Bordeleau. So I guess I'm super stoked about this Quentin Musty kid. I don't know him, but I would say he's forever linked to the Timo Meier trade. And I was looking back in history and trying to see how many guys actually scored 40 goals, and it is so rare, like incredibly rare. So these guys, like when Petro was joking, he's like, I told my wife and kids that Phil the Thrill scored 50 goals, they were laughing. That's how special these players are that can pot 50 goals, or like Ovechkin might eventually beat the Gretzky goal record, which would be insane. So I guess these goal scorers are precious, and that's why Willie Nylander's going to be a hard-nosed negotiator. He knows his worth, and it could even be higher worth than Timo and Dubois, I guess, situationally, with Dubois being a centerman instead of a winger. Like Bordeleau, I was pretty critical, I guess, in my last post about him, and I said he's probably not good enough to make the team. So it's still the off season, and things have changed. Now we've got Stevie Lawrence, who I loved. I thought he was the most improved player, but it's a business, nothing personal. He was traded to the Florida Panthers, who I've started to admire and like. Jumbo played one of his years there. You got to admire the team, like Bob and Kachuk scoring those legendary goals and playing injured. I know Joe was playing injured many years as well. He was injured in Toronto during the playoffs. He had like ribs, issue with his ribs and stuff. Like it's painful. I've had that before, and it hurts to go to the bathroom. So too much info there. Anyways, I think of a guy like Jumbo who was unselfish, and he went down to the third line. Like we all, I love you, big man, but we all slow down. We're 44 now, and when you're in your 40s, it's hard keeping up with these young kids playing in the NHL, I'm sure. It's a speedy game now, so he went down to the third line. I think potentially, I'll say Bordeleau to me is a second line center, if he can elevate his game, or at least to me that's where he would be slotted, because Will Smith down the road is going to be your future number one, and at that point, does Hurdle go down the lineup into like a third line center or something, being 3, 4, 5 years later down the road, right? So I guess I would say that if Logan slotted at the third line center, Sturm would go down to the fourth line. I think Sturm was great as a power guy. He was lots of hits. I think he had 10 goals too, which is impressive. Like I said, these goals don't grow on trees, and when you look back through at history, how many guys scored even like in the 30s and 40s, I was pretty bummed out, because I think Greggy, honestly, he didn't get qualified because he hasn't proved that he can do it, but he's a speedster, and I think he's got a high ceiling. I think he could be a 25-30 goal guy someday. So I'll hang my gloves out on the line on that one, on that prediction. But I guess I think if Logan was to go to the third line and he was feeding some of the younger guys, like maybe a Gushin or a Bstat, if Bstat stays for the first couple weeks and maybe plays like 9 games or whatever, and then goes back to Sweden like Eklund did, or even Eklund on Couture's wing or something like that, might be really interesting on the third line. Like, to me, the third line is the most important line in hockey, and it's make or break in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I see Jumbo go down to the third line, and the team was so deep because you got a legendary guy with, like, he's top 15 in scoring, I think 13 or 14 overall. Maybe I think probably Crosby will pass Joe eventually, and maybe Ovechkin too. They're the kind of the last of that generation. And I think Joe, like, there's a lot of talk about the Stanley Cup too. I'll just touch on that as well. Is that, like I said in another pod, it's like you got a 1 in 32 shot. You got like a 3% shot of winning the Stanley Cup each year. So how important is it really? You're just one guy on a team, and this whole de-emphasis of the core four, a lot of players now signing 1-year deals backing themselves, a lot of guys going for, a family city or a tax-based city or a lifestyle choice like Nashville for O'Reilly, being like a country music fan. I think you'll see more of this stuff, especially after the pandemic. Like, I went through Wisconsin Dells, and it was a ghost town. Like, this city probably was made for a huge entertainment venue. Like, families would probably go on vacation and take their kids there. But I'm driving through, and there's like this Mount Olympus Park, which is like a huge theme park, water park, and it was really sparse with families. There was like hardly anybody there as I was driving by. And you got this Flamingo Hotel, which looks like it's bankrupt. There was no one there, and they had two separate buildings and 2 lots. Like, the Olympus has like 30 extra buildings for accommodations, and they were all ghost towns. They're all empty. So we're in a very bizarre, strange time as far as the economy and spending goes. Typically in the since World War II, you had a lot of jobs, like my grandmother was a psychiatric nurse for her whole life, right? And now you have a lot of gig economy. People are jumping around for jobs, and jobs are a little bit more sparse. And I've always believed in that whole Henry Ford model where we want all of our employees to afford the cars that they build. And I don't have all the answers, but I think just seeing the NHL and how tight the purse strings are this year, the economy being tough after COVID and the release of the pandemic and stuff, I think that spending will eventually kick in. We've been in an economy of consumerism for I don't know how long, and now these younger kids and stuff, they're buying a lot of digital stuff, right? So some of these like flashy cars or homes or things don't appeal to, and going to the bar and spending, like, I know some it's probably half and half, like maybe I'm doing a bit of boomer talk here, but I just, you go to the bar sometimes and you see like the bottle service with the sprinklers and fireworks and stuff, and like the whole hoopla over trying to look good. And I think that, that vanity society or whatever, this is way off hockey. I'll get back on track, I promise. But the society that we're in right now and the purse strings, I think people need to go outside again. We need to start spending our money and then go demand more from our jobs. And the government needs to fund a little bit more, especially on the property and community development side, which it's neglected over the last several years in order to get out of this. But just in summation, I said I'd go back to the Carlson thing. Sorry for the rant on the economy, but it's really strange. I see Pittsburgh and Carolina being the number 1 and number 2 destinations, and Seattle dropped out. Like, to me, I thought Seattle doesn't have a clear number 1 right shot D, whereas Letang and Bernsey are the number one right shot D on Pittsburgh and Carolina respectively. So I don't think either of these trades is going to go through, to be honest, and I think Mike Grier is tired of talking about it. I'd love to see Eric report to training camp, and then maybe if it's apparent that it's like he's demanding a trade, like in the media, I haven't heard those words come out of his mouth. I hear that he's happy in San Jose and he's enjoying it. Like, I think the Sharks are probably, like, in the next 3 years, they're like the Devils, So is it worth, like I said in a prior cast, is it worth Karlsson waiting it out for, 2-3 more years as his kids grow up in San Jose and, get into school and stuff like that, and he builds a family life down there? It's a beautiful city. The Mountain View, Palo Alto, Los Gatos is just a gorgeous area. I'd like to live there someday. And maybe he decides to be, it's more of a lifestyle thing. Like, I like it in California. My family likes it here. And, I know I'm all about winning, but with the odds of winning being 3%, if he moves to another team, does that guarantee that team's going to win? Not necessarily, right? So a lot of things have to go right to win the big prize, right? To win your 16 games and 4 rounds of Stanley Cup playoffs. And, I think teams like, I said earlier, Charlie and I were talking about, I said, I think the Leafs and Carolina, and he's like, the Leafs, are you kidding? And I said, well, yeah, I wasn't big on it until the second day of the free agency, when they brought on they lost everybody in the first day, and then the second day they brought everybody in a lot of grit and sandpaper. So I believe the Leafs are probably going for it. They're going to do everything to probably pull trades at the deadline and just make a run for the big prize, because a lot's going to change, I think, next summer, especially if Matthews or Nylander or both are not signed by day one of the start of the season. It could be basically just everybody's backing themselves next year. There's no money to go around, and there's no money to hand out these big contracts because the economy, like I'm saying, and you got to back yourself until things improve, probably in 2024, or I think things will start improving again, right? So I guess I think I mentioned it, but Quentin Musty, you're forever linked to the Timo Meier trade. So hopefully you become what we think you'll be, being the first overall draft pick in the OHL, and being that, top one RW or LW, right wing or left wing. So I believe you're a right wing, and Eklund is a left wing. So I think it makes sense to bring in some of these younger guys around Couture, maybe on the third line. If Bordeleau do the opposite for him, if he comes in on the second line, now that Stevie Lawrence has gone to Florida, maybe he's got Duclair on his line, or Barabanov, who's proven to be a great playmaker in himself, or some of these guys, right? So maybe even Gushin on his wing. But I think probably surround the young kid with experience, and then maybe the other way around, put a Logan as a centerman with some young kids on his wings, like Eki and Gushin or something like that. Makes the most sense to me. So that's it for today. Good luck in camp, Jumbo. Legend, keep her going, buddy, at 44. We'll see you next time.